Venerable Sir, Mahasangharatnya, and ladies and gentlemen, this evening, as Venerable Dhammananda Nayakatira asked to first give a little self-introduction, I would like to keep that part rather brief. I was born in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, and studied there economics and sociology of developing countries, and thought I could do something for the world by studying economics and sociology and then change the world outside. So especially developing countries' problems I was studying. But while studying that, I felt there's lots of problems within myself. How to solve the outward problems if I'm not able to solve my own problems. So at that time, at the end of the 60s and beginning of the 70s, there was not much known about Buddhism in Holland or Europe in general. Popularly, it was still unknown. Only a few people were practicing Buddhism. But Hinduism and especially transcendental meditation came up, so I decided to start meditation, and that was the first sort of introduction to meditation, TM. That very technique got me so interested to go to India, and I decided to stop my studies for a little while and go to India. In the year 72, I left Holland, went to India, came in touch with Hinduism, yoga, meditation, and fortunately also with Buddhist places of pilgrimage, Buddha Gaya, Saranath, and not only the places, also the monks who were residing there, the Mahabodhi Society, its publications. And then I saw a little change between the very multicolored, many-named and very complicated Hindu temples with lots of gods and statues, and the very simple, green, peaceful Buddhist places. And I became interested in Buddhism. The Buddha statue, the serenity of the places made me interested to find out a little more about Buddhism. And on a second visit to India, I actually met a Sri Lankan monk, a sculptor of Buddha statues, not Venerable Vipulasar, another monk, and he advised me to go to Sri Lanka for the study of Buddhism. He said, you could travel in India, but Sri Lanka would be a good place to study Buddhism, practice meditation. So he directed me to Venerable Narada's temple, Vajrayana, and a Vipassana center in Sri Lanka. So in actually 74, I went to Sri Lanka, practiced some Vipassana meditation at Kandu Border Meditation Center, and started reading Buddhist books, mostly from the Buddhist Publication Society and other books, and met learned monks from various temples and bhikkhu training centers in Sri Lanka. And both the intellectual satisfaction of the philosophy of Buddhism and especially the practice of Vipassana meditation made me decide to become a monk in Sri Lanka. So in 74, I went to India. 75, I entered the monkhood in Sri Lanka, and ever since I've been living there. First 5 years in a temple outside of Colombo, in a suburb, where the monks are specializing in studying and teaching, handing on the teachings of the Buddha. And from time to time I used to go for meditation retreats there, Vipassana. And from 79 to 84 I was in an international Vipassana meditation center called Rock Hill Hermitage near Kandy as secretary and assistant teacher to the head monk there. We had about 1,500 foreigners coming through during the 5 years that I was there, all for 10-day intensive meditation retreats every month from the 1st till the 11th. And since 84, 85, I've been staying in another forest hermitage in the south of Sri Lanka, near Galle. And also, I've been a member of an interreligious dialogue group which meets once a year for 1 month to live together in a small group in an intensive situation of 8 or 10 people from various religions, Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, and all living together, meditating together, discussing together for 1 month every year. We go from place to place to have different backgrounds as the main religious background, from time to time Christian areas, from time to time Hindu, Buddhist and Muslim areas. So, this evening I thought a talk on Buddhism, but especially the Buddh in Buddhism. The word Buddhism we could divide into 2 parts, the ism of Buddhism and the Buddh of Buddhism. Now to me, the ism of Buddhism is not so interesting, because you find isms everywhere. And people usually try to defend their ism as a better ism as the other ism. See, socialism, capitalism, and all kinds of ism. And of course, the ism in Buddhism has developed from place to place according to the country where it went to. Therefore, we find Buddhism in Burma a little different from the Buddhism in Sri Lanka, in Thailand a little bit different, the Chinese Buddhism a little bit different, the Japanese form again different. So that ism changes from time to time and place to place and adapts itself to the environment, the pre-Buddhistic customs of the area, the cultural, historical background of that country. Buddhism is so flexible, it just adopts itself to those places. But the Buddh in Buddhism, either Buddhi or Buddha, has not changed. That Buddh, meaning wisdom or intelligence, seeing, realization, that is to me the important factor in Buddhism. Because Buddha himself realized something which is universal truth. And he realized it not by accumulating knowledge about things, about other religions, facts, but by seeing for himself in an unconditioned way the things as they really are. He even said, even when there are no Buddhas, the Four Noble Truths exist. And the Four Noble Truths are not dependent on a place or a time. So wherever Buddhism went, it always preached the Four Noble Truths, and especially the seeing of those Four Noble Truths for oneself. So that kind of Buddha, I think, would be interesting to look into this evening. What do we mean by that sort of intelligence or that sort of seeing, that sort of awakening? Now, if we accumulate knowledge in school or through conditioning by our teachers and our parents and our experiences, we just accumulate facts, experiences, knowledge, words, and so on. And we can pass an exam, or we can answer questions, or we can write a book about such experiences, and all that is called knowledge. But the wisdom or the buddhi in Buddhism is not an accumulation of facts or second-hand knowledge, but it is actually something which we can see for ourselves. Now, seeing we can do in different ways. We can look at something and then think about it and discuss about it. We can take a picture and look at it. But all that sort of seeing is just outward appearance. Whereas if we are seeing with our mind, not through concepts, not through ideas, not through some sort of thought, but directly, then we come very close to the facts as they really are. And Buddha always advised to see things as they really are. Now, what does that mean, to see things as they really are? Because we all might have different ideas about one thing. Even if we use words like we have to do here, we all have different idea when we say a particular word. When I say table, or when I say chair, you will have different idea about the tables that you have seen and the chairs that you have seen. But the actual table or chair which is right in front of us is something completely different from your idea. Now, that means that we have to drop the idea and come to see the reality. So where did Buddha start? See, he was a scientist in a way, but not a scientist who uses instruments to explore the universe. We can look very, very far through telescopes and try to find out the beginning of the universe or the end of the universe and look further and further and further, gathering facts. Buddha himself, he has said things about the universe, but not by looking outside, by looking inside. He has already mentioned the infinity of world systems. He said there's not only one sun and some planets, 9 planets. There's numberless worlds, numberless universes. Where did he get the knowledge from? Looking inside. So the closest possible object which we have in the world is actually our own body, our own mind. Our nama rupa, as it is called, the mind and body complex, is the closest thing in the world which can be observed. And it is that which Buddha said is the instrument by which we can find out what is the world. Actually, he gave a definition of what is the world. Lujjana palujjanattena loko. Loko meaning world. Lujjana, that which comes together. Palujjana, that which falls apart. Now, that seems a rather strange definition of the world. But if you look at yourself closely, you can see how fast things are changing. In what we call meditation or development of our mind, if we take a close look and we just look at our feelings and we look at our thoughts, our intentions, our consciousness, we see very, very, very quick changes. Within 10 minutes of meditation, thousands and millions of different thoughts and impressions and intentions and moments of consciousness have passed. So that is what is meant by its arising and falling away. It comes up, it goes away. It comes together and it falls apart. Now, our physical body is also like that, but very difficult to see the changes in the physical body over a short span of time. However, when we look at a longer period, when we just think of the time that we were born. Of course, we cannot exactly remember that moment ourselves, but we can think and we have heard about it. But from the time that we become conscious of ourselves, and if we just remember moments of our past, or if we take a picture every year on our birthday and we compare that, then you can look at your physical body changing very rapidly. I'm not the same body as when I was 1 or 2 years old. And Venerable Dhammananda said, actually I'm a Sri Lankan, and that's true. The body has been in Sri Lanka for 13 years. I've been eating rice and curry for 13 years. So my body is actually Sri Lankan. So, and now a little bit Chinese and you see Japanese and so on. But we can actually see that the body has been changing over that period. When you take long time gaps, you can see the vast changes. But it is going on from breath to breath. From day to day, from moment to moment, our body is changing. It's never the same. The whole process of digestion and taking in air and food and liquids, all that is changing metabolism. So, that sort of change, if we see it directly within ourselves, we get what is called an insight into the real nature of things, namely impermanence, anicca, change. And that change, it's not to be conceptualized, but to be seen for ourselves. The concept is never the real thing. Another example, for instance, is the fountain here in front, or a river. When we say that fountain is here, well, in one way it's true. We cannot deny that the fountain is there. But if you look closely, that fountain is never the same. The water is moving, and all the time there are different particles of water going up and going down. So actually, in one way, that fountain is not there, or we could say it's a changing phenomenon. Some people go as far as saying that's an illusion. And of course, if we switch off the motor, fountain is gone also. So there are different levels of looking at the reality, the relative truth and the absolute truth. So when we are talking to each other in words, we always think in terms of relative truth. In order to communicate something, we have to use a word. But in order to see something for ourselves, we do not really need a word. If I want to experience something in myself, I can just sit quietly, not think about it, but just observe. Especially in the Satipatthana way of developing our mind is called Satipatthana Bhavana, or the development of mindfulness. Buddha said, just pay attention to whatever is, not add anything to it, not put any sort of label or word or thought on top of what you're experiencing. Then you can really observe your own breath, your own physical body, your own feelings arising and passing away, your own thoughts coming up and passing away, the sounds which you are experiencing. The whole world is then experienced not through some sort of concept, but directly. And there is the way to see the things as they really are. And why does Buddha say we should see things as they really are? Because that will get rid of our illusions. We live under 3 major illusions. Why? We try to make things permanent which are not permanent. You see, in America, people spend billions of dollars every year to make their bodies look young. right? The cosmetic industries are flourishing because people do not like to change, do not like to grow old. They always want to look young. So it's good business, but it is very bad wisdom. You see, not accepting change creates conflict. So to see the changes helps us to accept reality as it is from moment to moment. It will help us to overcome fear. It will help us to overcome greed. Help us to overcome, conflict, suffering. Buddha did not just say, see things as they really are for nothing. No, he said in the preamble to the Satipatthana Sutta, this is the way to overcome conflict and suffering. This is the way to purify your mind. This is the way to reach Nibbana. So, for that reason, we should see things as they really are and not live under the illusions. So illusion number one, the non-acceptance or the illusion of permanency, the non-acceptance of impermanence, right? So what we do, we project an image onto the changing nature and we say, I want to hold on to this, at least this gives me some security. The impermanent world is insecure. And if my body is not permanent, well, let my mind be permanent, or let my consciousness be permanent, or let my soul be permanent, so that at least I can survive. That sort of illusion leads to all kinds of distortions, to fear, to anxiety, to conflict, to greed, and to the illusion of this eternal existence. And therefore, Buddha said, just look at the change. So, with the example of the river and the fountain, and also the example of looking at yourself from birth to now, I've tried to make clear that seeing the impermanence will help us actually to get rid of that illusion of permanence and therefore make us freer and happier people. Not clinging to the past, you see, not projecting onto the future, but living with the change in the present moment. Now that is very important part in Buddhism. The other illusion which we are living under, the three major illusions, the first one being the idea of permanence. The second one, idea that there is any sort of real happiness in experiences of sight, sound, smell, taste, touch and thought. See, the way that we experience the world is always through our senses. We hear things, see things, smell, taste, touch, and think about things. Now, if we think that there's real happiness in that, then we will always be frustrated, because there's sometimes a beautiful sound, sometimes ugly sound, sometimes a beautiful picture, sometimes something ugly to see. Sometimes we experience happy feelings, pleasant feelings, sometimes unpleasant feelings. I don't think there's any human being in the world who is always seeing beautiful things, always hearing beautiful sounds, or tasting pleasant things, smelling, touching beautiful smells and feelings, or always having beautiful thoughts. So, when there is what we call pleasant sight, sound, smells and taste, that is not happiness, it's just pleasure. Buddha never said it's wrong to have pleasure. He says every human being, human being wants to be happy and likes pleasant things and dislikes unpleasant things. But the problem is when we go after pleasant things thinking it is real happiness, then we are deluded. So that kind of delusion of happiness means the thought or the illusion that there's real permanent happiness in changing phenomena. That is the illusion. So that is also broken when we look at ourselves through observation. of our body and mind. And the very difficult illusion which we live under is the illusion of self, thinking that this body is really myself, it's my own, or my feelings are really my own or myself, or my thoughts are really myself, my own, my soul, or the consciousness which I have is really myself, my real soul. Well, if we think that, then we haven't really woken up to the fact that it is not so. Because if you really look at your own body and mind complex, we can find out if this body and mind is really myself, well, then I should always have to be able to keep it the way it is. And I don't think anybody has yet succeeded. Not through cosmetics, not through medicine, not through the latest, artificial intelligence and so on. We haven't been able to remain the same. So that illusion of self is actually an obstacle on the way to enlightenment. Therefore Buddha said, it's not nityang, sukhang and atman, that means it's not permanent and happiness and selfhood, but it is anicca, dukkha and anatma. It is impermanent, it is a form of conflict, unsatisfactoriness, and it is also nothing belonging to ourselves or our souls. That's what we can observe. So those three words, anicca, dukkha and anatta, those are just words for the reality which the Buddha discovered, the things as they really are. And to break through those illusions, we cannot just keep on repeating everything is anicca, dukkha and anatta. The word is not the thing. We have to break through that word and realize those characteristics for ourselves. Then really it makes sense. Then it has value and it has also effect on our mind in the sense that it sets us free from the illusions and gives us another sort of peace and happiness and security, which is not based on illusion but based on insight. And it is the insight, wisdom, which we call panya or buddhi. And that sort of insight, wisdom is the result of the development of our mind through the development of awareness, attention, mindfulness, satipatthana. So, as far as I have discovered in Buddhism, that is the essential development of the mind, satipatthana bhavana. Of course, there are many forms of meditation, what we call maitri bhavana, development of loving kindness, overcoming thoughts of anger, hatred, by creating thoughts of loving kindness towards ourselves and to other beings, by thinking, may I be free from anger and fear, may I be free from greed, hatred and illusion, may I be free of conflict and suffering, may I be well and happy, may all beings be free from conflict and suffering, may all beings be well, peaceful and happy. That, of course, is a good, meritorious and helpful development of thoughts of maitri, metta, loving kindness. But it doesn't really make us see things as they really are. It's a preparation, and it will give us happy thoughts, skillful thoughts, kusala cetana. That is, it replaces anger with loving kindness. So what we do is actually we recondition our mind through certain meditations. We recondition our mind from greed to generosity, from hatred to loving kindness, and from darkness to light. That sort of meditation, of course, we find in other religions also. And in Buddhism, actually, we find 39 different sorts of meditation which help us to recondition our mind. We can think of the qualities of the Buddha, of the Dhamma, of the Sangha. We can create thoughts of loving kindness, overcome anger, overcome greed by certain meditations. But the very distinct Buddhist meditation, which was not available before the arising or the enlightenment of the Buddha, is what is called Satipatthana Bhavana, the development of mindfulness. And you don't really have to be a Buddhist to realize that, because actually Buddha himself was not a born Buddhist, you see. He was born in a time when there was no Buddhism. Only after Buddha we say this is a typical Buddhist meditation. And that Buddhi again comes back to that same root word called Buddhi or Buddha, Bodhi. All related words relating to that quality in the mind which is unconditioned and the seeing of the things as they really are. So that is the most attractive part of Buddhism, because to me it is something which I can carry along with me wherever I go, you see. And I've been traveling quite a lot for the last 11 months. I've not been in one place for very long. And wherever I go I find my body and mind is with me. My mindfulness also with me. I have a portable meditation object all the time. I have the breath, you see, to observe anapanasati, bhavana, development of mindfulness on the breath, whether I sit in a plane or in a chair, whether I'm walking, sitting, standing, lying down, I have those things. So Buddha did not especially say we have to go to the forest in order to meditate, or we have to leave the world to meditate. No. He said whether you are standing, sitting, lying down, you see, or walking, whether you are looking up or down, backwards, forwards, that is the time where you can develop your mindfulness. There's not a particular time or place where you can only develop mindfulness. No. Every time and every place, every occasion is an occasion for developing mindfulness. But of course, there are certain situations where we can develop our mindfulness more acutely, more strongly, more, say, systematically, and therefore we do sitting meditation, walking meditation, close our eyes, fix our mind on the tip of our nose, feel the breath, develop concentration on and mindfulness on breathing, anapanasati. That of course we can do at certain times of the day. And sometimes we can go to a meditation center and practice meditation for a longer time. A weekend or 10 days or 1 month, whatever time you have. But if that would be meditation, then what about the rest of our life? We have 24 hours in a day, and out of that most people will sleep anywhere between 5 and 7 or 8 hours. So the rest of the day is the majority of the time that we are awake. And if we would only meditate 10 or 15 minutes out of that, if we call sitting as a statue only meditation, then it would be very, partial and very limited. But if we realize that meditation or the development of mindfulness is not restricted to only sitting and only closing our eyes and focusing on the breath, when we realize that every occasion, every posture, every activity is a time and a place where we can develop mindfulness, then we will actually be meditating most of the time. When we are able to remind ourselves to be aware, alert, in the present, not living in the past, clinging to past things, not projecting ourselves into the future, thinking about the future, worrying about it. If we can be aware from moment to moment, then we are meditating most of the time, as long as we are mindful. And that, of course, has hardly any limits. We can develop that up to any extent. Therefore, the development of mindfulness is an all-time necessity. There's danger in being not mindful. There is reason for and cause for conflict when one is not mindful. There is cause for unhappiness when we are not mindful. So, developing mindfulness and being mindful is the way to overcome conflict, unhappiness, and other forms of suffering. Now, I would actually like to, with your permission, Venerable Sir, open up the talk to more what we call a round talk or discussion, where you have the possibility to speak up, make remarks, ask questions. You can ask any question, but I'm not always sure whether I can answer it. So I invite you to ask. Yes.
Just now you heard that Reverend Ananda tried to introduce the essence of Buddhism in brief. Essence in brief. Anyway, until I arouse your feeling, I don't think that you will come forward to ask any questions. Then you become very active. Just now he mentioned about the human feeling or the human problems, wrong concept, wrong identification about our life, our feeling, and the existing things in this world. Still we do not know actually what is the real cause or the reason why these conflicts exist in our mind, which create unsatisfactoriness. We always experience unsatisfactoriness in everything from our birth up to our death. We never gain complete satisfaction in anything. Today you can satisfy. Tomorrow you will complain. Day after tomorrow you may accuse. Next day you may curse. After that you may try to get rid of this. This is the nature of our feeling. Then is there any method for us to get rid of this problem? That is why we had to admit that we are ignorant. Don't think we are very intelligent. Actually we are ignorant. No reality, no analysis or analytical interpretations in our understanding. Buddhism is known as doctrine of analysis. Never accept anything without studying, without thinking, without analyzing, without understanding. Simply by using our faith or belief, there is nothing for us to accept in the Buddha's case. But all the others encourage people to believe something. The Buddha's advice is not to believe at once. Your belief can create so many misconceptions, imaginations, and skeptical ideas, but no reality. Now the main problem, why we cannot satisfy with anything in our life, in this world, is this. Conflict between impermanency and our belief of permanent existence. This clashes, this conflict is the main cause. You want to maintain everything without allowing them to change. You want to maintain your youth. You fight. But when you come to know that you are getting old, you get unsatisfactoriness. But you never knew that you are holding wrong concept. No reality in your belief. When you have to suffer from various sickness, you get fed up with your life. You blame and accuse and cry. Why? Earlier you had never thought sicknesses are natural. All those component things in this universe create this problem. Not only human beings, not only other living beings, even all those existing things, plant life. And this mic also one day gets sickness. And this cup also gets sickness. These things also become old. Can you stop this? You never think earlier. You want to maintain something without allowing them to change or decay. It is a losing battle. Then you gain experience unsatisfactory. Then you want to remain forever in this world without dying, without facing death. When people talk about death, you say, hey, don't talk about death, very bad, you know. Our new year is coming, don't talk about death, very bad. You become self-hypocrite at that time. You don't want to face facts. When death comes nearer to us, then you say, oh, we don't want to die. How to die? Why are you scared of death? I have told you, death is not miserable. Death is not painful, actually speaking. I have seen hundreds of them dying in front of us. It is not painful. The idea that you have created earlier, that death is miserable, create this fear. You understand? The Buddha has given this warning earlier to contemplate, think. When the death comes, at that time, you can maintain cheerfulness. With smiling face, you can welcome. You can say, I was waiting for you. I want to renew my passport. Then why do you worry about that? Why do you want to cry? Is it not stupidity? The reason is this. You have so many things. You have jewelries, valuable things. You have money, nice houses, motor cars, estate, big property, young wife. How to die? My wife still young. Beautiful children. When you consider, when you develop more and more attachment toward this thing, then you are scared to die. Otherwise, death is not miserable. Death does not create suffering. That's why we have to think earlier. All these things are subject to change and decay and disappear. You are not ready to face facts in life. This is the problem. By knowing your mentality, then some other religionist approach you. When you are worrying, crying, lamenting, they come and tell you, don't worry. Here in this world, all these things are changeable, subject to decay and death and this and that. Here in this world, all these things are changeable, subject to decay and death and this and that. But there are some places where changes never take place. Sicknesses or death never take place. Everything is permanent, eternal, everlasting, immortal, wonderful, beautiful, attractive, colorful, fascinating. Oh, how nice. Then is there anything that we can do? Yes, accept our religion. Pray, finish. Now you are immortal, you never die after that. In our heaven, in our paradise, and you are crazy to go there, not knowing whether it is true or not. Your stupidity, your ignorance, your craving, develop and pray. You increase your craving, but you do not know whether it is true or not. Just because some people come and promise, as if they have come down from heaven. This is our weakness. We are not ready to face facts. You need something to remain forever without facing any changes. But you cannot understand, there is no such thing, there is no such life, there is no such world existent. This is the nature. Then you ask, what is the purpose of this life? This life has no purpose. There is no purpose, ready-made purpose. But you can make use of this life for any purpose, whatever you like. Here, your intelligence, your understanding, your wisdom are important. Otherwise, there is no ready-made purpose created by anybody. It depends how you handle it. And then you can create the purpose. Then what is the aim of our life? The aim of our life is by knowing the life, the existence create enormous sufferings, unsatisfactoriness, disappointment, unhappiness, troubles and problems and worries and disturbances, sicknesses. See how many thousands are there. One day, when we can develop our mind, our life processes, to get rid of all these physical and mental problems, suffering, unsatisfactoriness, unhappiness, disappointment, that is the aim of our life. Because we are struggling. Every minute, every second, we are struggling to get rid of our problem. Then where is happiness? The Buddha has said, the purpose of my coming to become a Buddha is not to tell you who created this world, or to tell you when is the end of this world cycle, or not to tell you when you appeared on this earth first time. That is not my job, because there is no such thing. All are imaginations. But to tell you one thing, that is very important, because you do not know. What is that? To tell you why you are here. Do you know why you are here? Please tell me if there is anybody who knows. Why are you here? Means not in this temple. I know why you are here in the temple. Is there anyone who knew why you are here in this world? No idea, isn't it? Then do you admit that you are ignorant? Right. Very good. You are ignorant, including me. Because I also do not know. Why are we here? Then, do you know where we come from? Do you know? Whether we have come from hell, or animal kingdom, or heaven, or from somewhere else, or created by somebody? Do you know? No. These are the things we have to learn. Without creating imagination about this paradise and heaven and this and that, this is the thing that we have to learn. Then we can settle our problems. Then the Buddha says, now I am not going to tell you. You have to study. You understand why you are here. Otherwise, you learn, after that you say, okay, we know everything. You have to learn a lot to understand why you are here. And he says, the purpose of my coming here to tell you that life, existence create enormous unsatisfactoriness. It is true. You always grumble, always complain, always fight, always criticize. Why? Because you cannot satisfy. When you talk about the world, you complain. When you talk about this country, you complain. When you talk about your home, your family member, you complain. When you talk about your business, you complain. When you talk about your health, you complain. Everywhere, complain, complain, complain. When you talk about your marriage, you complain. About your children, you complain. That is what we are doing. Here the Buddha says, I wanted to tell you why you complain, for you to understand. By praying and worshipping and reciting all sort of things, you won't be able to get rid of all these problems. Remember this. That is not Buddhism. Then you admit, definitely, life creates enormous unsatisfactoriness, unhappiness, disappointment. Then, to tell you, if you are not happy, how to get rid of all your disappointments and unhappiness. And to tell you what will happen to you if you could manage to get rid of all these existing physical and mental problems. Now you cannot understand any of these problems, isn't it? This is the Buddha's message. Don't expect anything else from the Buddha. If you want to get better income, go and do some business systematically. Don't expect the Buddha to tell you how to do business. If you want to maintain healthy life, live in accordance with the nature, lead a natural life. Don't go and ask the Buddha how to maintain a healthy life. If you want to live long life, don't go and ask the Buddha how to live. Buddha also died at the age of 80. But some of his disciples lived up to 180, 160 years. The Buddha is for this purpose. But we are misusing, abusing, disgracing the names of the Buddha because we imbue our stupidity into the Buddha and Buddha's teaching. Take for instance, the Buddha has renounced his kingdom. Later, now, we are introducing something as Buddha land. Buddha has no land. He has renounced everything. How can we introduce Buddha land? Because that is our imagination. The Buddha has given up his crown. Throw away. Now we bring back that crown and put on his head. You say, this Buddha is more powerful. Go and worship, you get more blessing. How we have distorted the real teachings of the Buddha. We bring gold, apply all over the body. The Buddha is the religious man who have given up all his gold and valuable things, renounce. If we and experience some sort of feeling when we apply gold, I think he feels that we are applying cow dung in his body. That is the Buddha's attitude towards all these things. And that is what happened to Buddhism. Our poor mentality, our craze for this worldly material thing, we apply even in the Buddha's body and disgrace the Buddha. But never try to learn, never try to understand why the Buddha appeared, for what purpose, what is his message. That is what, in brief, this Reverend tried to explain to you. Now you are very hot, isn't it? Okay. Now you can ask all these questions. Don't ask anything from me. Pose all your questions to Reverend Ananda.
Mindfulness takes place only from moment to moment, and problems also arise not all at the same time. See, when we think about the many things which we have to do in a day, it seems like the whole day is coming to us now, but actually the day sort of unfolds. So every moment there may be some different object which you have to be mindful of. When you are doing something with full awareness and right understanding and clear comprehension, the situation is called sati sampajanya, that is mindfulness and clear comprehension. Then you will do the right thing at the time when it is needed. There are certain things which we have to do now. Buddha, perhaps not Buddha, but somebody else said, D-I-N, do it now. And if you cannot and should not do it now, just K-I-V, keep in view. Right? You cannot do everything at the same time. But if you are mindful, you know what is the thing to do at the right time. Now, you said one thing, should I be controlling my anger and trying to make it more pure? Try to develop more pure states of loving kindness? No. be aware of your anger when it is there, not condemn yourself for being angry, but realize where the anger comes from. Usually anger arises because you have a different expectation and something will turn out differently from what you had in mind. And then you start projecting more thoughts on top of that, right? There's no anger without thought. If you can be aware of thinking at the time that it happens, then when it is not necessary actually, when you sort of put a torch into a dark room, you see, the room lights up. Now, if we're not aware of our anger, we just get carried away by the anger. Then we start abusing people and doing all kinds of things, and later on we regret. But if you are aware of that thought, if you can catch it at that level, if not, be aware of the anger, maybe a feeling around the stomach or some muscle, you see, tense, or you're angry, or maybe harsh words. If you can just be aware of that at the time, it drops away because of your own understanding. And of course there are many things around us which we could be aware of, but there are certain things which are not necessary at all the time, right? So I would say, if you pay attention from moment to moment, the day will unfold. I cannot exactly transport myself to your situation in the office, but if you are aware all the time, that question will not really be a problem, because from moment to moment you can be aware of the most prominent thing and what is necessary at that time.
Here the mindfulness means mind your own business. When you work in your office, you must understand what are the duties, what are the responsibilities and obligations. Then you can do your work efficiently, without neglecting, without making mistakes. That mindfulness is most important at that time when you work in the office. Of course, when you work in your office, don't go on thinking, the Buddha says everything is impermanent, everything is changing, why should I work so hard throwing your file? Buddha says we must be mindful in that way. Wrong place to apply, that's right.
Actually, the main reason why I want to raise the question is what I'm trying to present for the day. As a monk, the setup is different. As an ordinary layman, it's different. It is keen for others to try to say that everything is. But my presentation is that it's very much difficult at our level to do that.
Well, that is your idea. But I think Venerable Dhammananda is perhaps busier than most average office workers. And monks are also human beings. Every human being has body and mind, feelings, thoughts, you see, and intentions and contents of consciousness. That's common to every human being, whether he be monk, nun, layman, or laywomen. Only the contents are a little bit different, right? But mindfulness is something which is applicable to all. Sometimes you could have a mindless monk and a very mindful layman, right? The difference is not whether we have the robes and shaven hair, but the difference is whether we are mindful or not. So sometimes it seems there's an idea that once you become a monk, all your problems will be over, right? Well, I will not say that the problems start at monkhood, no, but that is not the deciding factor. Whether we are able to see the things from moment to moment, live mindfully, and let go, you see. Sometimes we create problems by carrying over things from the past into the present, and by pulling things which haven't happened yet, which might happen because of our hopes and fears into the present moment. So where's the problem? In the present moment. And what means the present moment? When it's a problem, it's here. The mind creating problems. Somebody asked once, you see, what should I do if I meet a tiger? So the speaker said, where's the tiger? You see? You would know if you meet a tiger what to do.
I remember some times ago, so one reverend gave a talk at the University of Technology. His subject was Man and His Mind. He explained the nature of human mind. After that, one student got up and asked, is there any difference between man's mind and woman's mind? So that Reverend actually did not give any differences. He says sometimes differ, but not always. But I knew the students could not satisfy with that answer. I was with the audience. Then I got up and told them, there is a difference. Because man always think of a woman, woman always think of a man. This is the only difference. Otherwise, there is no difference. So, my dear friend, mind is mind. Whether your mind or my mind, no difference. But circumstances are different. Understand? The differences there. In your case, there are so many commitments, duties, obligations and responsibilities. Because of these commitments, it is very difficult for you to develop your concentration, mindfulness and peace of mind. You have to think of your work, your business, your income, your wife, your children. How many things are there? In my case, no such problems. So I have more facilities to concentrate peacefully. Those things never bother in my mind, to disturb my mind. So circumstances become favorable or unfavorable for us to maintain healthy mind. That is why the renunciation is important.
When a person performs a task with full concentration, is this mindfulness? Is there any difference between concentration and mindfulness?
There is a difference. You see, concentration generally is defined as fixing the mind for a longer period of time on one particular object, excluding all other objects. We remember or we fix the mind on one particular object. For instance, if we look at a candle flame or some object, and we try to forget everything else and we just fix our mind on one thing, then we say the mind gets concentrated on that object. But in mindfulness, the objects may be changing. You see, there may be, if you do a certain task, then there will be different things from time to time which you have to pay attention to. For instance, if you're driving a car, right, you have to start, accelerate, brake, look in the mirror, look at the road, all kinds of things you have to do with mindfulness, but not with exclusive concentration. If you would only be looking in the mirror, you see, while you're driving, things would go wrong. So there, mindfulness is necessary, and in that mindfulness, there is actually a form of concentration which we call momentary concentration. From moment to moment, what you perceive, you do it with concentration. There's mindfulness, there's quietude, there can be peaceful state of mind, but yet not that exclusive concentration. So in activity, it is called mindfulness, that is momentary concentration. For every moment there's concentration, but the objects are changing. So you have to flow with the moment for moment changes. Does that make sense? Concentration is exclusive and static, fixing one object, but mindfulness is dynamic and inclusive. Can be anything which comes to your consciousness. That's the object. And when you're doing a particular task, you focus on that task, but the task is also changing. But you do it with mindfulness. Right?
So there are three things. So how at once, so how do I concentrate on mindfulness? I think let's say I'm standing, I don't have mindful of standing. And then I'm talking at the same time. So which one should I be mindful of? How do we know what is our progress? How do we know the first stage of progress? We are told that more cars and all this how do we know that we are
Good, very good questions. We sometimes think that things are going on at the same time, that we are seeing and hearing and feeling and standing, see all these things at the same time, that we are perceiving that at the same time. But technically speaking, according to Buddhist psychology or Abhidharma, mind moments are taking place very rapidly, one after the other. There are 17 trillion mind moments in a second, and every mind moment has one content. One mind moment can only see or hear or smell or taste or touch or think something. So with 17 trillion mind moments in a second, there may be, 1 trillion hearing moments, 1 trillion seeing moments, and so on. So when we are looking, like when I'm looking at you, or when you're looking at me, you can see me at the same time, you can hear me, but at the same time is only relatively speaking. Right? It's a mixture of many, or it's actually a sequence of many mind moments with different contents. Right? So therefore, it seems that we are seeing and hearing and smelling and tasting and so on at the same time, thinking. In the case of Vipassana meditation, for instance, we are walking, right? Walking meditation. We say you focus your attention on the movements of your legs and the feeling under the sole of your foot, right? Of both feet. Now, there are of course many things happening there. You're intending to lift your foot, that's a mind moment, intention to lift. Then there's actually lifting of the foot. At the same time, when you lift one foot, the weight is increasing on the other foot. So there's a feeling of, touch under the other foot. So there's many things going on. There's lifting forward, placing. At the same time, there is weight, you're seeing. But generally speaking, you focus more and more attention on those movements and feelings, and so you become more aware of a smaller amount of things. So there's a form of concentration actually, but it's not exclusive concentration, it's more focused on a number of things which have to do with that walking. And when you're thinking, you're also expected in the meditation to be aware of your mind wandering away, wandering to the past or the future. When is that happening? Now. Be aware of thinking. So you have the movements and the feelings and the thinking, sometimes the hearing and the seeing also. But you become aware of one thing at a time. When you realize it, you just notice it. If it's not necessary at that moment, it drops away. Right? Does that answer all your questions? I just wonder. seems like one, yes.
The meaning of mindfulness. Just now you were talking about two things, standing and talking. While you are standing, always you must remember that you are standing. This helps a lot for you to balance your physical body, your legs. Otherwise you may fall down and you may disturb others or you may get injuries. So that mindfulness is very important for you to maintain your physical body. Another aspect. When you concentrate on your movement or on your action, you don't allow your mind to involve, to interfere with another object. You try to arrest this mind, keep with you, without allowing this mind to run here and there. Otherwise you make mistake. Then your mind is guarded. And all the senses also you can control very easily because you don't allow this mind to go here and there and bring some other objects. Another thing, while you are standing, you can go on thinking like this. Standing, 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 all the while you are standing, go on thinking, contemplating. Then your standing become an object for your meditation, for your concentration. And at that time, you don't allow your mind to occupy another object. Your standing has become an object. Then this is the golden opportunity for you to tame, to train your mind. That jumping mind, you can tame like this, standing, 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 standing. The mind is always here. This is the way how we have to train the mind. This is the training period. So after training and training and training and taming, then the mind becomes very obedient, very understanding, tameable objects. Then concentrate on other deeper aspects for realization. So the mindfulness is very important at the initial stage for us to tame our minds.
And I would actually like to add something, if you don't mind. When you were saying training, I was reminded, you see, of train, and especially in a train station. If you are going to practice that sort of training at a train station and you want to catch a particular train down to Singapore, and if you would be standing there, standing, seeing, by that time the train might actually have left, you see, before you know it. So be careful when you do this sort of training, not in the train station and not like that, right? Run if you have to run to catch the train. Last one. All enlightened.
Buddha says, time never dies. When a person dies, his body will stay with God, but the mind remains. All the current actions, they later begin another birth. So the birth continues. But that stage is like that, but more birth. My understanding is one mind, one energy, will form another life. So how to explain that today? the world population continues to grow. Let there more growth. We can say every minute a new birth is given, will fall. So by mathematics, I lost calculation. So how do we explain that?
Yes.
Myself can multiply by itself.
Well, it's not so difficult, you only have to add a little bit of other dimension. That is, that not only human beings are reborn as human beings. According to the Buddhist cosmology, there are various planes of existence. Human plane is only one. And in the scale of various levels of existence, of the animal realm, of the human realm, of the Deva realm, Preta, Bhuta, Deva, Brahma realm, 31 levels of existence. Not only on this planet, but in the whole infinity of space, there are many planes of existence. So, a mind continuum or the stream of consciousness is not only limited to a human birth. It could be that at the time of death, we have to spend some time in a different realm of either fine or non-material existence, or as an animal for some time. And so the invisible beings, in that sense, you see, the stream of consciousness without gross physical body, which we can see in this frequency, may be reborn as a human being. So that what is called Gandhabba, or the being looking for a birth, could enter into a human womb, in that sense, and continue the stream of consciousness as a human being to express the karma and have reap the results of previous actions which lead to human birth. So that explains a lot.
If life never dies, on the other hand, if population increase, clearly shows life never dies. Okay. Sākāsattā Bummattā Devānāgā Mahiddhikā Puññantang Anumoditvā Chirang Rakkhantu Loka Sāsanang Devo Vasatu Kālena Sassa Sampattiyetu Ca Phito Bhavatu Loko Ca Raja Bhavatu Dhammiko Idango Ñātīnaṁ Hotu Sukhitā Hontu Ñātayo Imina Puñña Kammena Māme Bāla Samāgamo Satang Samāgamo Hotu Yāva Nibbāna Pattiyā.